Hey, there's no doubt about it. They ain't making winters like they used to. Oh sure, the temperatures get nearly as low and the snow pile's nearly as high as it did when I was a boy, but I've come to notice that people don't let that bother them like they used to. By golly, winter used to be something that you endured instead of enjoyed. Where me and my brothers and sisters used to freeze our tails off in long johns and galoshes, my kids now keep toasty warm in snowsuits and thermal boots. Hey, and it's not only just the kids out there romping around. Even grown-ups are learning that winter doesn't have to be 3 months of huddling around indoors waiting for the robins to come back. In fact, I don't think the guys out here even noticed that they were gone. Hi, I'm Babe Winkelman, and thanks for joining me on this very special Fishing Secrets video. Hey, and I do mean special, because on this tape, we're going to take an in-depth look at a sport that has more than its share of backers and detractors, and that's ice fishing. Now, when I was a kid, ice fishing was something you did because it needed doing. Even if you loved it, an ice fishing trip wasn't something to be taken lightly. Generally, you'd have to slip into 6 or 8 layers of wool and rubber, strap everything onto your old flexible flyer sled, and trudge out onto the ice to a flat or a point that you were hoping might hold some fish. And once there, you'd chop or chisel a hole in the ice, get your back to the wind, and commence to enjoy yourself. Was it fun? You're darn right it was, because when you were fishing to freeze, even back then, you were more than likely to tie into some really productive fishing. The main secrets to ice fishing then and now was where to find them and how to stay comfortable while you're doing it. Now, over the years, there's been a lot of change in the sport, but one of the biggest single areas has been in the area of comfort. Instead of pulling a sled behind you for hundreds of yards or more, the modern ice fisherman will load up an all-terrain vehicle or snowmobile that not only will get him to where the fish are sooner, but also allow him to cover a vastly larger area in search of the best fishing. And, as I mentioned before, today's new lightweight insulation means that the snowsuit you're wearing is going to keep you warmer longer. And that means you can spend more time on the ice in pursuit of your favorite fish. And for the really cold days, portable ice shacks and heaters are not only affordable, but highly recommended. Now, 2 other major innovations are well worth mentioning here because they've literally revolutionized the way we fish through the ice. And that's the power auger and the portable electronic sonar unit. In the old days, you'd go to an area that, as near as you could figure, should hold some fish. And once there, you'd chop as many holes as your time and energy would allow, drop in your bait and wait for the action to start. Sounds simple enough, but if the fish weren't there, you were faced with making another guess as to their location, moving your whole setup there, chopping a bunch more holes, and starting the process all over again. Not fun, believe me. A lot of work, as a matter of fact. Of course, you still have to make those educated guesses as to where the fish you're seeking are likely to be. But now, with the new power augers, you can drill hole after hole that'll allow you to sample an entire area. And with a portable flasher, you can quickly check the bottom for structure and schools of fish. For the few $100s that both of these devices will cost you, you're going to step into a whole new world of hard water angling. Now, as far as bait and tackle are concerned, we're going to get into some of the specifics in just a little bit. But the general rule is, keep your tackle lighter and keep your bait smaller than you'd often use in the summer. We're going to put that principle into effect with some sizzling ice fishing patterns as I and my good fishing team advisor, Ray Ng, go in pursuit of 3 popular species of fish that every angler can enjoy. First off, I've selected the bluegill since they're found from one end of the continent to the other. They're not only great tasting, they're also contentious as all get out when hooked. Hey, and the great thing about these guys is that they're the perfect fish to introduce your youngsters into the lifelong enjoyment of ice fishing. We'll also be going after a fish that seems to attract the most attention from anglers in the winter, and that's the yellow perch. Hey, let me tell you, I know quite a few fishermen who will swear that there's no finer eating in the world than yellow perch through the ice. They're also a fish that can be found nearly everywhere that ice fishermen fish. The last species we'll reveal some secrets about is the rainbow trout. Surely one of the most beautiful fish that swims, its native range is somewhat limited, but you'll notice I said its native range. More on that later. Now that I've aroused your curiosity and got your attention, let's head out on our first excursion to a region that bills itself as the perch capital of the world, Devil's Lake, North Dakota. Hosting this segment is my filming coordinator and field advisor, Ray Ng, and he'll be joining fishing pro and guide Rod Sather. The main secret we'll be covering in this piece is how to combine the most natural live bait with the most effective artificial lure to put these lazy winter fish on the heavy bite.
You know, this is some really good perch fishing around here, and I'm just kind of wondering, has it been that way for a long time, or have people been fishing perch in Devil's Lake for a lot of years, or is it a recent thing, or what?
Well, in 1970, they put their first stock of perch in this lake. They went to a lake called Lake Metagoshi. They got a bunch of stunted perch, put them in here, and that was the first stocking of perch in 1970. They did it again in 1974. It was a Boy Scout project. They went to Wood Lake. They had the same type of stunted perch, and they brought in 7,000 perch that time, and they stuck them in here. Ever since then, they've been taking off, and we're finally getting some more of the littler perch, which of course is going to be next year's pound-and-a-half perch.
Really? What makes them thrive so well in this lake? How come why the success story here?
Well, we've got our freshwater shrimp in the lake. They really thrive on our weed beds and our dead trees in the water. And man, they reproduce. And our perch feed on those. You open up the fish, and they're just full of these freshwater shrimp.
That's what they feed on,
yeah,
primarily.
Yeah.
Oh, there's one. There's a nice one. Oh, boy.
Yeah, there's a fair
there we
perch.
go. That's not bad.
They're sure chunky.
Yeah, they sure are. And they range anywhere from what? Half pound to 2 pounds, or?
Well, this year we got a lot of smaller perch, but we get a lot of them pound-and-a-half, 2 pounds. 2 pounds is not uncommon. If you stop in the bait shop at night, you'll see the big perch come in.
That's right.
And you'll find out that you get into the big perch, and you're going to catch a number of big perch.
What on the average? Say you got a good day out here. How many? I know that's a tough thing to say and to generalize, but if you're out here, what do you consider a good day? How many fish?
Myself, I would consider anywhere from 75 to 100 per person a good day.
Wow.
In fact, our state record perch is 215, and that was caught out of Devil's Lake.
215?
Yeah.
Boy, that's a big perch.
That's a nice perch.
You know, it's kind of funny because when people think about panfish, a lot of times the perch is left out, but I know throughout the United States there's a whole lot of very, very good areas where people are in perch mania, if you want to call it that, yeah, where the locals are really having fun because they're a good eating fish, they're fun to catch, and you know, they can do it with the family or whatever.
They're super fish to catch. You'll find out how good they are to eat when we get back tonight.
Sounds good to me. Oh, that's a nice one.
Yep, no, not too bad.
That's a nice fish. Seems to be a few of us under here. I see them on the locator.
Yeah, I think they moved back in.
There we go. This is so much fun. So nice to get a... Oh, there's a nice one. These are all just fat little sows, aren't they?
Yep, in nice shape.
Well, we're using these maggots, or you call them spike, I think,
Spike,
don't you?
Yes.
Spikes, and I think around Minnesota I've heard them called Eurolarva, except they're colored. You've heard of those, I'm sure.
Yeah, we've got colored ones too.
These are easy to buy. You can buy them in any bait shop up this way.
Yep.
Just basically a little white worm that's used to tip jigs or hooks or whatever. And I noticed you handed me some other things that we've been trying a little bit here. I'm curious to see. These are the shrimp that you talked about, aren't they?
That's what we got here in the lake. And they're tough to put on a hook, but they sure work. When fishing is tough, you can put them on.
What are they actually called? What's the... Are they just freshwater shrimp is what you call them?
Shrimp, freshwater shrimp, whatever you want to call them. And that's what these perch are thriving on.
Uh-huh. And they're all over in the lake?
Yes, they
just tons of them?
Yeah.
Okay. Uh-huh. Well, there's really not a lot of structure to the lake. It's pretty much a bowl-shaped lake for the most part, shallow.
Yes, it is.
Yeah. Not deep to speak of, is it?
It's approximately 30 feet in the deepest spot on the lake.
And how many acres do we got?
We've got 65,000 acres of water.
So it's a big lake.
It's getting bigger every year.
So we're not really talking about the classic mid-lake structure, ice fishing, or even rocky drop-offs so much along the edge. What are the fish relating to? Weed lines, or?
It's mostly weed lines are relating to. We have bottom changes where we've got some sand and mud. They'll definitely relate to the change of the bottom texture. But most of it is weed line related.
Well, in the winter like this, it looks like we're out in the middle of nowhere, seemingly anyway, and along the shoreline we got scattered trees. It looked like there might be some submerged timber or something. What do we got out here? I noticed by this map that we're in some kind of a finger here. Where are we actually, and
We're
Why are
about
we here?
midway up Creel Bay, and I fish the lake enough to know that we've got a little bit of rock right behind us. There's bottom change, and it definitely holds fish. And I would say for the average guy, if you fish it in the summer, you're going to find these bottom changes, and your fish are going to relate to that summer and the winter.
Really? Explain a little bit more. Oh, there you go. About change in bottom content. What exactly are you, I know what you're talking about, but a lot of people don't quite understand what that means.
Well, when I'm talking about change of bottom, I'm not necessarily talking about depth change of bottom. I'm talking about where it goes from mud, your weeds, to say sand or a little gravel. That's where you want to be. Where you got your bottom change is usually where your fish are going to be
Any
located.
change, basically.
Just about any change. The reason for that is this lake is just a big bowl. There's very little structure on the lake. There are a few rock piles that have been created by the farmers when they were farming this in the 30s. And if you know where those are, which a few guys do, you can take some super fish off of it. Boy, that doesn't feel too bad.
Oh, you got a nice one. Oh. That's a beautiful perch. Oh, I got one too here. I don't know how big it is. This is so much fun. Oh yeah, nice perch. Boy, this is something you just don't see a lot around the country. You know what?
They're sure beauties.
They sure are. Well, we've been having a lot of luck on this chartreuse.
Little quiver jig.
Little quiver jig here. Have you used these a lot in the past and had good luck with them? Or?
Well, I'll tell you, I think it's one of the best jigs you can get. I like the way they feel, action.
Yeah.
You put a little bait on them, they're great. As you can see, the perch inhale them. They think they're great.
They sure do. And another trick here that Babe taught me a while back on these quiver jigs is to snip this floss off just a little bit, so that when you're tipping them with worms or maggots or waxies or whatever, you get the bait extended off a little bit so that the fish can see them more from underneath and that floss wouldn't get in the way. But for minnows or for bigger baits, there's sure no need to do that. And that's what's really nice about these quiver jigs, is they're so versatile for whatever kind of fishing, and whether it's crappies with minnows or sunnies with waxies or whatever it is, it's just a darn versatile jig.
Yeah, those quiver jigs work good. If I don't use the quiver jig, I'll probably use little fuzzy grub, but I prefer 1/8 ounce, something light. If I'm not using a jig, I'll go to a jigging spoon, something with a little flash. But I still only go to 1/8 of an ounce. We use a lot of light line. I prefer 4 pound, probably 6 if we're going to go after some big fish and some rocks. We'll go to 6 pound.
6 pound.
6
That's
pound.
Heavy line.
Yeah.
For perch, really.
We start out with 2 pound line, and then we'll go to 4. 4 is about maximum on the perch. We've been using a Spren, so that's working good. Doesn't have any kink or memory to speak of for winter.
Well, you know, a lot of people don't really realize that you need that light line, not only, you know, because it's less visible and all of that kind of thing, but when you're fishing with light jigs like this and jigging without a bobber, you're not getting that visual kind of thing to tell you got to bite. You got to, you know, you've got to rely on your sense of feel, and a light line is so much more pliable and limp, if you want to call it that, so that you can actually feel your bait and it gives it a better action. Don't you agree?
I agree. I always said as light as you dare, and 4 I would say is a very good all-around line.
Mm-hmm. Well, what about color? You know, perch can be just, whoops, there I missed one. They can be just as finicky as any other fish when it comes to using the right colors of baits and so forth. What have you found works well here?
Well, on Devil's Lake, our forage base is shrimp. They're dark colored. I've seen them kind of almost a chartreuse color. And chartreuse on this lake is super. I think it relates to the color of the perch, the shrimp. Chartreuse is good color on this lake.
Here, this particular one is what we're using. Here's a couple other colors. There's obviously some others that are available. Pink and white is available, and a number of others. But we're working this color chartreuse here, and we're working with an 1/8 ounce.
Right.
And that's what you like the most. Right. But what about colors like the darker colors, or the orange and black?
The orange and black, that's very good color on the lake also. As you see, the perch are also kind of an orange, and orange is very good color. The blues, the blacks, they're super colors. You get an overcast day, they're a great color. Early in the morning, Late in the afternoon, black, blue, purple, they're all good colors.
Well, what, do most people come out here and try the classic jig and minnow, or where would you say would be the best place to start? When you come out each day, do you start with a certain color and a certain type of live bait, or how do you go?
I've got a certain color I like. I like chartreuse. I usually start with a chartreuse jig, and it's usually tipped with a spike or a waxworm. And if that doesn't produce anything, I'll change colors. If I still don't do very well, I will go to a minnow, and just a straight hook even at times will produce fish.
Ooh, there's another one. Whoop. Now that's a big perch. All right, look at him. That's got to be, that's a 1.5 pound perch right there.
Oh yeah, that's a good pound
That's
and a
a
half.
1.5 pound perch. That's as big a perch as I've ever caught. This really is the perch capital of the world, is it not?
Yes, it is.
Holy cow, beautiful orange colors. Just beautiful gold. Is this about a typical size when you really get going into the nice big jumbo perch?
That's an average perch. I would say that's around 1.5 pounds, maybe 1.10 pounds. But that's a nice perch.
1.5 pound perch. What's wrong with everybody? How come nobody doesn't understand what's going on out here? Jeez, it's beautiful. Snow, early March, just gorgeous weather. Fish like this, what more could anybody want? Boy, I'll tell you. Thanks a lot for spending the time and coming out here and fishing with me. I sure had a great time. And Babe, thanks a lot to you too for giving me the chance to come out here and sample this great fishing and the beauty of North Dakota. And I hope that people can have a chance to come out and do what we're doing here. It's simple and it's easy, and it's a great thing to do on an early March day.
Looked like a beautiful day, didn't it? You know, that's just one of the many things I like about ice fishing. It allows us to take advantage of those sunny, slightly warmer days that frequently occur in winter, no matter how far north you live. Another nice thing about it is that it's kind of simple, yet really productive. Fishing that's tailor-made for starting youngsters on. Now, there's a secret to doing that, too. In fact, there's several, and that's exactly what we're going to be looking at in this next segment, as I and one of my daughters, Danielle, share some good times while fishing for the ice angler's #1 quarry, the bluegill. You got my line, too, see? Now watch this. He went in back in that hole. Now I'll pull him out. He ate your ice jig and then he ate my ice jig. Boy, this is a pretty crazy sunfish, isn't it? You ever seen one do that before?
And take him up.
Huh?
And take him out. Up.
I can't believe it. He got yours and then you got mine, and I pulled in yours and got you at the same time. But that's all right, isn't it? You like to go ice fishing with your dad?
Yeah. It's fun too.
Yeah, it sure is, isn't it?
Here's mine, right?
Right. You know, that's exactly what is neat about winter fishing. Just like Donnie said, it's fun too. We can come out here and it doesn't make any difference if you catch a bunch of big fish or a bunch of little fish, as long as you're having fun and you're catching a bunch of fish. And sometimes getting crazy things happening like just did. Let me make sure I can put this down for you, and we get it all the way down to the... We got, okay. Now you hold it right there. Hold it back here. And watch your little spring bobber.
Do I got one?
Yeah, you better come here and reel.
Oh no. Oh. I can do it, remember?
You can take them off all by yourself, huh? You know, I'm not getting any fishing time in here. You're catching all the fish, and I'm just getting to watch. But if you need some help, you let me know, okay?
That one.
Here, that one's a little tough. Let me help.
I don't need.
See, you gotta take it like this. And you gotta back it right up, just like that. Yeah. See,
Do
that
we have
wasn't...
to put it back?
Yeah, he's a good one to put back. Oh, he's wiggling all over, isn't he?
I think we should teach this one.
You think so?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, he'd be a pretty good... Whoa.
Should I help you catch some fish? No, I got 7.
Yeah, I got mine now, Donnie.
Should
You're
I
probably
help?
going to have another bite here in a minute. you know, while Donnie's out running around in the ice looking for other good spots, she says, and for licorice, I think. Now, let me show you a little bit about the tackle that we're using. Because this tackle right here is pretty universal, actually. This is a little homemade rod. It's an old, actually, broken off tip of a graphite rod with a cork handle put on it, and a little tiny Shimano reel, and there's 4-pound line on here. Now, you can either use 4-pound or 2-pound when you're fishing bluegills. The reason we're using 4-pound here is because in this bay there's also some bass, and you're apt to catch a 2 or 3 or 4-pound bass while you're fishing 2-pound line. You don't have a chance, particularly for one as small as Donnie. Now, on this line here, I've got a little thing that I call a spider. And let me at the same time show you something else with it here. These are waxworms. Now, Eurolarva, waxworms, mousies, just about anything work for bluegills. It doesn't make any difference. But I tell you something that bluegills are, and that's color conscious, okay? So even when we're sitting in a spot like this, I'll change colors occasionally on them. When the action slows down, sometime you'll catch all of them on one color that's possible. Now, what I've done here, notice how this thing is threaded on here? So the hook point is completely covered. Boy, they can be fussy, and sometimes if that hook point is sticking out, that's too much. You come back to do some fishing, Donnie? Now with the spring bobber, you notice this device on the end of the rod here?
I didn't find it yet.
You didn't, huh? Okay, you can keep looking then. With the spring bobber, you see now, you can see the slack in the line right here. I'm to the bottom. So now it's just pull up off of the bottom just a little bit. Now all the tension is put on the spring bobber. Oh, and just like that, what do? We catch a fat bluegill. And that's a pretty one, isn't it? You know what kind that one is, Donnie?
No, not 9.
You got 9, huh? Well, look at this one. Here, let me get the thing off him once, and then I'll show you. See, look at all the colors on this one. You see his orange belly and those blue stripes right here in his gills?
Yeah.
This is called a pumpkin seed sunfish. That's part of his gill plate. And different kinds of fish have different ones. Look at the color of him compared to the color of some of those other ones. Kind of neat, ain't it? And see, now we got yours all ready to go again. You got a bunch of big bluegills down in your hole here. So we'll get her back down. Now by habit, you notice I always pull them in hand over hand. Because unless we're in an area where there's bass or other bigger fish, I like a little bitty wand type of a rod. But in a situation like this, if you get a big fish, you'll need the drag that you get off of a reel to fight a bigger fish on this super light line. And for the bluegills, you don't need it, so I just hand over hand them. But if I do hook a big fish, then I'm going to put that drag to use. Oh, you know, this little potato chip here, we'll put him back. Let me show you this thing here. For that matter, I got to put a new waxworm on it. But this one is called a teardrop. See the shape of it? And I'm using a chartreuse one with big eyes. This is a Widowmaker teardrop. Then on the back side, just a little silver plate. This thing only weighs just a fraction of an ounce, but I still never put any split shot on there or anything else. Even in deep water for bluegill. If you put split shot above here, it affects the action of the bait, and maybe we can show you what that looks like on some underwater shots as well. But anything that affects the action of the bait can affect the amount of fish that you catch. Yeah, bluegills are prolific, and yes, you can catch a lot of them doing just about anything. But sometimes to catch the bigger fish, it takes little bitty tricks. Little things can make all the difference in the world with bluegill fishing, just like any other kind of fishing. Now, I get this thing down here. Got a little bit of wind today. And you notice how my line won't go down? That's because I got one from the bottom up coming. You see that? And you got to watch that. And that's why I like to watch the line and learn how to be a line watcher when you're fishing. Because, see, that guy hit it on the way down. What I mean on the way down, the thing was just sifting back to the bottom. And there again. Now, with weights on there, that thing would have dropped so fast that I'd have never caught that fish sifting. Okay? Hey, have you got any more bites here, bud? Now, a couple things let me point out to you that are good ideas to take along when you're out fishing with your daughter, like I am. And I have several daughters, as you probably know, but sometimes it's just nice for just one of you to go one-on-one with them, and you can spend a lot of special time with them. And that makes the whole experience neat. That's another reason that we're out fishing bluegills. I don't care how big the fish are that we're catching. I care how much fun her and I are having and the memories that we're going to share for the rest of our lives because of it. And the good times that we have when we get out together. Maybe it's running on the four-wheeler, or maybe it's out here looking for spots. or maybe it's catching fish, right? It doesn't make any difference. But I'll tell you,
Here.
yes, safety is always an important thing to consider as well. You notice we've got our life jackets. I make sure she's got one and I make sure I've got one. When we're sitting out here and we're on 2 feet ice, no, we're not wearing them because it'd be a bit redundant to do. But in a case like this, they make great cushions for knees to keep you from getting too cold. When the bluegills are really going, you don't want to be sitting on a chair. You want to be really down here working them like we've been. But I also bring a couple little fold-up chairs like you see. Just something that's very quick. So if she wants to sit down, a dipper, an auger, a little bit extra tackle over here, and that's about it. I mean, it really doesn't take any amount of money or any amount of special equipment. The little ice flies are inexpensive. The mousies, you can get a couple of dozen of them for $1, and you can go out and have just a great afternoon with your kids. I think you'd have to agree that little Dottie definitely has the makings of a lifelong angler. I don't know about you, but I can't think of many things that are more important to leave your children with than a love and respect for nature and the great outdoors. The real bonus in all this is that when you teach your children to become good at something that's difficult, it gives them a sense of self-confidence that stays with them their entire life. Hey, and lastly, you take your kids ice fishing now, and someday they'll take you. Listen, before we dive into more of that sizzling ice fishing action, let's see what's sizzling in my wife Charlie's kitchen.
Hi, I'm Charlie Winkelman, and thanks for joining me for today's delicious recipe that I've chosen from the pages of my Strictly Fish cookbook. Today's recipe is called Salmon Hot Dish. It's one of my family's favorites, and I know it'll become one of yours too, if you give it a try. Now, beginning with the ingredients, here's what you'll need. 1 pound of cooked flaked salmon, 1 can of cream of celery soup, 1/2 cup of thinly sliced celery, 1 can of drained green peas, 1 cup of crumbled potato chips, 4 cups of cooked noodles, 1 small can mushrooms sliced and drained, 1 can of chestnuts sliced and drained. Simply combine in a deep 2.5 quart glass dish the noodles, salmon, mushrooms, celery soup, celery, water chestnuts, and green peas. Cover and heat in a microwave for 6 to 8 minutes, stirring occasionally. And finally, just before serving, sprinkle with a cup of crumbled potato chips. And there you have it, Salmon Hot Dish. It's simple, delicious, and I'm sure it'll become one of your favorites too.
Believe me, cooking like this is one of the best excuses I know of to go fishing. And you're getting that from a guy who's devoted his life to looking for new ones. Believe me, Charlie's Strictly Fish cookbook is chock full of tasty reasons to go fishing. Because as the cover states, it's a gourmet's guide to great mouth-watering recipes from around the country with illustrated techniques for easy cleaning, filleting, and preparation. Later on in the show, I'll show you how you can get one of Charlie's cookbooks for yourself. But first, let's get back out in the ice. We're going to rejoin Good Fishing Field Advisor Ray Ying as he takes us out on a type of lake that gets one heck of a lot of action, but almost no attention, and that's the good old farm pond. Now, don't scoff, because there's some great fishing to be had on a pond that's been put together with a little thought and maintained with a little care. For generations now, these miniature lakes have been providing fishermen all over the world with first-rate fishing. In fact, many state and national records have been taken from farm ponds no bigger than a good-sized backyard. Traditionally, farm ponds are stocked with panfish, bass, and catfish, but on this segment, we're going to show you some secrets for catching another popular game fish that most of us don't connect with these kinds of waters.
Ooh, there's one. Oh, this is great. Ooh, they're just tugging. Look at this. Oh, beautiful. Rainbow trout through the ice. Oh, look at the colors on that. Boy, what a beautiful fish. Rainbow trout through the ice. As you can see, behind us here is a farm, and we're in North Dakota fishing a small farm pond, which is really pretty typical across the United States. There's, from the east to the west, there's farm ponds located all over, and good fishing in just about all of them. And today we're here with Marvin Dick, who's the owner of this farm, and this is a little, what, about a 1 acre pond that we're on here? Mm-hmm. And you've got it stocked with rainbow trout. Ooh, I just got one. Good deal. Oh, lost him. Oh, get him. Oh, we lost him. That's the way it goes, I guess, sometimes. Yeah, you get a cold hand out of the deal, but it's worth it if you get him. How long have you had trout in this pond?
Oh, since about 1975.
1975. And you dug it out yourself?
It's dug with cats and scrapers.
And is there any other species in here as well, or?
No, I don't put any minnows or anything in. It's just rainbow trout. So.
Rainbow trout. How big do they get in here?
Well, the biggest one we've caught on the line is 8 1/4 pounds, but we've seen some bigger ones in here. Look like 10, 12 pounders.
Wow. In a little pond like this, you know what's really funny is it's out in the middle of nowhere, and you'd hardly think that you drive by here, you might think there might be a couple bullheads or some rough fish in here, but to think that there's rainbow trout in here, it's unbelievable. Do you fish it a lot, or?
Oh, not all that much. Been fishing quite a bit this winter.
We're fishing here in the middle of the winter, obviously, but is it good fishing all through the summer and spring and all that, or?
The fishing's usually good until I get a lot of algae buildup around in here. I suppose probably the best is maybe latter May and all of June. And
I suppose you can fish with fly rods here, not so small, it's easy to locate where the fish are at and so forth. But whoop, there we go.
You lose him?
No, he's going in circles. Oh, look at that. Going in circles. I only got 4-pound line, so it works nice to scoop them out like that. I just love the colors of these things. Oh, just shiny, silvery.
What type of hook do you usually use for catching the trout through the ice?
Well, like I say, it's not a real common thing to be catching, or at least for me to be catching rainbow like this. But what we're using today is a little quiver jig. Why don't I show it to you? A little quiver jig. This is
a little spinner on it, huh?
Yeah, with a little spinner on it. Quiver jig, really all it is a lead jig head with a little bit of floss to it. This is floss rather than hair.
It isn't plastic.
No, it's kind of like dental floss, similar to that. And nice light jigs that you can just kind of loft up and down. They're a heck of a panfish jig.
About an 1/8 ounce jig?
Yeah, this is an 1/8 ounce here. They come in smaller, but that's what we're using today. It's just a ticket.
It looks good.
Yeah. There. This is great. Absolutely great. Oh, man.
That's a little bigger than the other two.
There's something about trout. There's just something about them. People out west fish them all the time. Sometimes in the Midwest like this, we don't quite get the same kind of taste, especially in the winter. Oh, man. What do they feed on in here?
Well, we feed, there's some freshwater shrimp in here, and a lot of water bugs, beetles and things, and with that mercury light out there, I've hung an insect killer on there, and so they feed the insects at night too.
I noticed you aerated here. We've got a little patch of open water right here to my left, and you need to do that each winter to keep enough oxygen in it.
Well, when the fish get slow and not biting, I assume that the oxygen content is down, so then I start aerating usually about around the middle of February on a normal winter. Things are opening up early this year, but
how deep
usually the oxygen is okay until about the middle of February. Spot where your partner is standing is probably about 25 feet deep.
Really?
It's designed by a state engineer, and it's got 3-to-1 slopes, and there's a 50 by 50 foot spot right over there that's about 25 feet deep, and then there's a feeding shelf on the south end over here that's about 12 feet deep.
Oh, that's really pretty deep then.
And I'll supplement a little with some trout pellets in the summertime, but not that many.
Well, do you have
like
to...
those have grown from about 4 to 6 inches. They were just small last spring, and they're already up to close to 2 pounds. So.
Sure. Well, we can't really be very far from the Canadian border. There's a lot of people doing this trout pond type thing up here, huh?
Well, that's what I hear up in Manitoba. Oh, looks like I got one here.
Yeah.
But up there, I think they usually just,
There we go.
They just stock the ponds every spring, and then they net them out in the fall of the year, and don't worry about aerating it to make it through the winter.
A little bigger ponds more?
Yeah, I think a lot of them are smaller and probably shallower, because that's why they have to be harvested in the fall.
Why, this is something special. Well, every once in a while, do you put any types of artificial food? I know there's fish pellets on the market and that kind of thing. Any of that, or don't you really need to?
No, I probably used maybe about 100 pounds or 2 bags of feed the last year, and they were from 1/4 inch to 3/8 inch pellets. You know, the larger the fish, the larger the pellets used. But
I suppose you
there's
don't
enough
want to
natural food in here, you know,
Sure.
unless I overstock it. If I would probably put in 1,000 or 2,000 fish, I'd probably have to use a lot more artificial.
It's kind of nice not to have them rely on that too. Then you get kind of a tame fish instead of a wild breed, huh? Well, if somebody just wanted to go ahead and say somebody had a little bit of land like this and they decided they'd like to make a little pond like this, what would you recommend as far as how to get started?
Well, the first people to see, I suppose, would be the Soil Conservation Service people, and there's an office in each county, and they can help in designing of the pond, and also they can let the farmer know if there are any funds available from the farm program to construct either a stock pond or a fish pond like this.
Great. I think there's a lot of people throughout the United States that would kind of get a kick out of this, and it's really not that hard a thing to do, as you can see. It sure doesn't take up a lot of space and a lot of time, it sounds like. So it might be something some people would like to get into. Well, I sure want to thank you for taking the time to fish with me here and letting me get on this beautiful spot here. I know you got a lot of things to do, and so I'll let you get going, but if you don't mind, maybe I'll stop and get a couple more of these things before I take off.
Just to help yourself.
Thanks very much.
You know, as anglers, we're always hearing stories about how we should have been here and how we should have been there, and most of the time, we take it with a grain of salt. But let me tell you something. This really was one of those times when I should have been there. So listen, take my advice, and whatever you do, don't miss out on farm pond fishing whenever the opportunity presents itself. And don't forget that even little farm ponds have their secrets, and you, as an educated fisherman, have to study and learn. Helping you become the educated fisherman you want to be is what we do here at Babe Winkelman Productions, where our motto is teaching America to fish. And to that end, we've developed a complete line of educational fishing products that'll help you catch more fish and have more fun doing it. Watch this.
In addition to the Fishing Secrets video collection, Babe has produced 18 tapes in his highly praised Facts of Fishing library. In each tape, Babe couples exciting action with hard-hitting facts and detailed diagrams. If you want to learn all you can about catching your favorite fish, or just want to be entertained, the Facts of Fishing library has it all. Babe is also the author of 6 books in his comprehensive guide series. Titles include Walleye Patterns, considered by many to be the Bible of modern walleye fishing technique. If you fish walleye, this is one book you won't want to be caught without. Then there's Fishing Canada, the angler's roadmap that unlocks the mysteries of the vast Canadian wilderness. This book reveals Babe's secrets for taking trophy Canadian fish, no matter what species you're after. And then there's Largemouth Bass, the book that delves into Babe's finely honed technique for catching America's favorite fish. From border to border, coast to coast, this is the book that has it all. And then there's Jig and Live Bait Fishing Secrets, in which the basic fundamentals of jig fishing and live bait rigging are covered in Babe's easy-to-understand style. And then there's Babe's comprehensive guide to fish locators. If you're thinking of buying one of these sophisticated fishing sonars, or aren't getting enough out of the ones you already have, you can't afford to be without this book. And finally, the Strictly Fish Cookbook, the one everyone's been talking about. Babe and his lovely wife Charlie have combined talents to put together these terrific fish recipes and more. It covers everything from field care to table fare. And don't forget Babe's Good Fishing audio cassette series, hailed as one of the finest educational tools for anglers of all skill levels. These tapes contain Babe's secrets for catching all of America's favorite game fish. And to see what you've been missing, pick up a pair of his fisherman's favorite polarized sunglasses. Like everything else Babe puts his name on, these are the best there are. With ground and polished glass lenses, side shields, matte finished frames, and their own lanyard and protective floating case. Why, you'll wonder how you ever fished without them. And you can be a part of Babe's Good Fishing research team with official jackets, hats, shirts, patches, and decals. For a free catalog, simply write Babe, Post Office Box 407, Brainerd, Minnesota 56401. That's Babe, Post Office Box 407, Brainerd, Minnesota 56401. Babe's complete line of educational products are available in leading sporting goods stores across the United States and Canada. And remember to watch Babe's Good Fishing TV series, the most exciting and informative fishing show ever filmed. And you can count on Babe Winkelman Productions to continue to be the leader in educational fishing products, because after all, we're the people who are teaching America to fish.
Fish in the freeze. Now that's a chilly way to describe a sport that's always warmed my heart. And it'll warm yours too once you've mastered the patterns that'll put you onto some sizzling ice fishing action. And listen, the next time you're out on the ice having the time of your life, the guy a few holes down from you with a pile of panfish just could be me. Till then, hey, good fishing.